was looking at me as if to judge me for criticizing people for coming out as Christians in the United States when it's such a danger to your life.
Another day of wasting any time. I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. No filter, I got no filter.
There you go. I'm back. Thank you. All right, let's hear about Blaire White's supernatural experience because very interesting. Fascinating even.
You can be a politician, autographing bombs, they get sent off to the Middle East to kill children. If you can be a serial killer on death row and find God, if God is available to all those people, I know for a fact God is available to me.
The hell does that mean? God is available.
Yes, I'm a Christian. Yes, I'm trans. Yes, I'm talking about it today. Super non-controversial.
Very, wow. So controversial. You're so brave.
Video today, guys. Nothing too spicy, nothing that should, cause any disagreements, of course, in the comments. I'm sure.
What the fuck? What's so controversial and spicy about that? Oh my gosh. I'm coming out as a Christian in an ultra Christian country. So controversial, spicy. You're gonna burn your tongue from all the spice. Oh, come on. What are the comments saying? This is so pathetic. Very nice, Blaire. Very open of you to share. Oh, wow. It's not always a feeling, Blaire. You must do it because you know it's the right thing that God wants you to do. But welcome. I hope your faith in Christ grows. I used to be trans, Blaire, 16-year-old, because I knew it was wrong, but couldn't get rid of this feeling. I said to God, Lord, please help me. I want to be trans and no, it's not of you. I still have those temptations, but they have been slowly going away. Yeah, that is a comment section, definitely. Catholic and married to a man. I got baptized 2.5 years ago when I found God. Best period of my life ever. Oh, whatever.
No emotions will rise up from any of this. So let's just jump right in. A lot of people have a lot of...
Yeah, I'm sorry to say that I expect this video to be boring and... I don't know. What kind of emotion am I supposed to get from a person coming out as Christian in an ultra-Christian country? Catholic converts are are the worst.
Feelings, questions, opinions, statements to be made, concerns, etc. about my religion, my faith, my journey towards having faith.
Yeah, I don't care about your faith. I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your religious journey. I don't care about that crap. Honestly. I don't care. It's your personal business. Keep that in the closet, okay? Keep that to yourself. Don't shove your religion down our throats. Please.
Because a lot of you guys know that I was not always a Christian. It's been about a 1.5 to 2 year journey now at this point, and it's something that is super deeply personal and something that I have...
Yeah, keep that in the bedroom, okay?
...refrained myself...
Keep your little relationship with Christ to yourself.
...from talking a lot about. And I wanted to talk about it today because I haven't really gone in depth about it. I've mentioned it in passing on my podcast channel, which you guys should subscribe to if you haven't. But I wanted to do a main channel, like full sit down, kind of like OG Blaire video where I'm just like talking with you guys, right? I do have a disclaimer though, a few things that I am not in this video. I am not an expert on Christianity or the Bible. I am not a biblical scholar. I am not a preacher. I am not here to convert anybody.
I definitely believe that you're not a scholar, so you don't have you do not have to convince me on that.
That would have never worked with me. And so that's simply not my goal here. Today, I just want to talk about me, my story with it, and I have a few things I want to get across, and we'll get into
Today, it's all about me, and no one else. It's all me.
that. I'm aware that there are no trans people on the internet almost at all talking about being Christian or religious at all, for that matter.
Yeah, because why would you do that? Okay? Why would you talk about being religious? I hate it when people brag about, keep it to yourself, okay? Don't shove your ideology down my throat.
On the internet, similar to how when I started my channel, there were no trans people talking about right-wing values or being somewhere, you know.
I don't care about her story with Christianity. I don't care about people's religious journeys.
Other than the radical far left on the political spectrum. And I find that kind of sad, because the idea that Christianity is, or religion is, somehow separate from being gay or trans is something that I've definitely seen my whole life. A lot of gay and trans people feel like they are so far removed from having access to that. They feel a lot of resentment towards, you know, religious establishment. They feel a lot of forsakenness. You know, they feel forsaken by the church, forsaken by God, forsaken by the Bible. Today's video is sponsored by Merge Cooking.
Oh my fucking God. Yeah. He's so serious about this. What a serious person Blaire White is.
Cozy merge game where I can actually de-stress, relax, and decompress. You start small, merging ingredients and tools, and suddenly you're running this gorgeous global restaurant empire. Think Paris cafes, Tokyo sushi bars. It's a full culinary world tour. And yes, you get to style your character Lee in iconic outfits from every country. Zero cost, full fun. No ads, no in-app purchases, and no hidden fees.
That's amazing.
Actually rewarding. So much to merge cooking for all figured out, and I'm not here, like I said, to be able.
Let me tell you about my serious religious journey. But first, today's sponsor is Cookie Bookie Fuki Tuki, and we're gonna cook together. Want to say something, Fido?
Biblical scholar. For a long time, I felt like I had to be an expert or I had to have it all figured out, and then I realized, the further I learned, no one has it figured out and no one knows what they're talking about.
And then I figured out that I can just be a dumbass and people will watch it anyway. People will give me over 500,000 views, so I decided not to bother learning anything anymore. Thank you.
You know, there's apparently over 45,000, according to the World Christian Encyclopedia, 45,000 to 47,000 Christian denominations in the world. So that is a lot of different groups within that umbrella that can't seem to agree on what the Bible says or doesn't say, what the true path to God or Jesus
I
truly
wonder what that tells us.
is. And so, as far as I'm concerned, as long as the whole world is debating everything about it, I don't have to have it all figured out to sit here and just be honest with you guys. For me, finding Christianity, finding God has been the most transformational profound, empowering thing that's occurred not just in my adult life, but in my entire life. And so the idea that
Brilliant.
there are people who maybe deprive themselves of that because they're gay or because they're trans or because they're any sort of, pariah or someone who's felt forsaken or scorned by religious people, that makes me sad. So a lot of you guys may remember a few years ago, I was on the Roseanne Barr podcast and we had a really funny, but real, at least to me, moment where I was telling her, I feel like I'm being called to God, but I don't really know how to get there intellectually. I'll put the clip in. It's super funny. I want to believe in God, actually, but I don't really know how.
Look up through your eye sockets as far as you can.
Oh my God. What advice.
Look all the way up to where your head hurts or your eyes strain. Your eyes way up there. Breathe in, contain it. Up there. It's cool up there.
What the fuck?
I don't think I'm trans anymore. And so that was silly.
Want to say something, Fido?
But it was real. I used
Vladimir says, but I love marriage cooking. It's the best game ever. Yeah, thank you, Vladimir.
humor, and so does she, about stuff like that.
That was very awkward. That was not humor. That was just awkwardness incarnate, okay? Incarnate.
But it was not too long after that I had this awakening. And it happened slowly and over time, but also in a moment. And it's so hard to explain that. And I feel like if you've had a spiritual awakening, I feel like you get that. And I'm not
Vladimir says, sure, I believe her. Finding God must be the most transformational experience ever. True.
trying to use language that isn't, familiar to people who aren't spiritual or haven't had that moment or whatever. But you know what I mean if you know what I mean. And if you don't, maybe just stick with me and try to hear me out. And around that time,
Oh my goodness. This is going to be a really, really stupid video, isn't it? Even stupider than all the other videos. Yeah.
period, I reached out to God and I said, please, explain to me why I'm feeling this pull. Tell me what this means. And if you felt the pull, again, you know what I'm saying. And I said,
I'm sorry, feeling the poo? Why am I feeling the poo? That is very juvenile of me. I apologize.
I don't know how to logically get there that you're real. I was super literal and physicalist about it. I was like, if you could just give me not a sign, I don't want something, fuzzy or something that is kind of enigmatic or not tangible. I want you to prove to me that you're not only real, but there's a point to me talking to you like this. There's a point to me feeling like I can communicate with you. And in almost no time, I had what I can only describe as a supernatural experience. And yet it was so tangible at the same time. It was so literal at the same time, yet impossible, yet totally out of the, scope of possibility.
Oh my God. Simone says, Blaire White is always a shitload of stupidity. I don't know what to say. And it's Blaire White fans that come at me in the comments and in this very chat, and they're like, Lucy, you're so weird, unlike our brilliant queen, Blaire White. Okay.
That it was exactly what I asked for and needed for. And I felt like my entire...
Okay. Brilliant. How convenient that it was exactly what you needed.
Third eye opened, or my spiritual life opened at that moment.
My third eye opened.
I didn't know where that was necessarily.
Yeah, my third eye opened. That's Christian, right? The third eye. That's part of the Christian doctrine, isn't it? Having your third eye open. Whatever. I guess it's all the same, right? Yeah, that's definitely a thing in Christianity. Mm-hmm.
Headed, I actually, even at the time, wasn't necessarily set on, that means the Christian God of the Christian Bible. But that is where I felt called after that moment, which changed my life forever. And I think I'm going to keep some of those specific details to myself because it is so
Insane.
deeply personal and
Oh.
so mind-bending and so
Stupid.
I'm still unpacking in a lot of ways, despite the fact that I experienced it and have worked through it. And I feel like I sort of had
Okay, I have to ask. So, what drugs were you on when you experienced this magical awakening? LSD? Were you on acid? I would explain a lot actually if you were on acid. If you were tripping and you found God.
a moment where I really grew up intellectually as well because I started to understand
Okay, that's funny. That explains a lot, though. Yeah, I had this wild experience, man. I like had this supernatural experience, magical God experience, and that is when I grew up intellectually, you know? Man, dude, that explains so much. You cannot believe how okay, the pieces are falling into place.
what I thought the world was when I had this awakening. I had no clue. I thought I had it all figured out, that what this world is, it's what's right in front of you, right? This microphone, this table, this hair, this light on me right now. And that I realized my mind actually can't wrap around exactly what this thing is that we're all living in, and that there are forces so much higher and one force really sitting at the top of that. And I feel like part of that growing up
You really seem high. My God, you seem so high right now.
was also I realized how much I had judged God through the lens of people who had represented or proclaimed to represent God throughout my life. I thought of the fact that the few times I had gone to church as a kid, I had so many questions and I felt like they were not answered by the people in the church. I felt like I almost could intuit more about the Bible as a little kid reading it than like the pastor or the Sunday school teacher telling me about it.
Yeah, like I just figured out that if I don't get the answers from my religious leaders, then I might as well just make all of that shit up and then it's all good, right?
almost knew nothing about it. And so I felt like that somehow meant that God, that was like a sort of indictment on God in my mind. Like, well, this can't be real. God can't be real because people don't represent him well. You hear of scandals in the church. You hear of scandals, horrific ones in the Catholic Church throughout history. You see so many people using religion, all religions, to justify heinous things. You see people not living through, the biblical teaching. Teachings they purport to believe in or preach to others. You see it weaponized. You see it used as a way to launch hate at people, sometimes gay and trans people as well, obviously. And so I realized that I had been judging God by people. The fact that I didn't feel necessarily
I was judging God by people when really I should have just judged God by my own imagination. There you go. By my own made up concepts.
welcome or at home in a church. I had this misconception that that was somehow a statement about God, and God is not people. People cannot represent God. And so that's been really foundational in my understanding of spirituality and God as well. And I'll speak to the gay and trans thing right now because obviously that's a part of this, right?
Yeah, God don't represent God. People don't represent God, but I as a person totally do. Makes sense.
And by the way, it's only a part of this because unlike other people whose, sins or whose conditions or whose actions may be concealed by the fact that they're not wearing it, on their sleeve, I'm coming to you as a trans person on video saying that.
Oh, I guess being trans is a sin now. You're wearing your sin on your sleeve.
There's a lot of people out there that are, cheating on their wives, autographing bombs. They get sent off to the Middle East to kill children who call themselves Christians.
Oh, okay. I guess being trans is like stealing from others.
A lot of people who, you know, where they may be contradicting the Bible in their personal life, they have the cover of it not showing or, you know, coming up front.
I don't think she has any good points. I'm sorry. This is stupid. There is no other representation of God than by people. I hate to break it to everybody.
Front. I'm coming to you with all my cards on deck, right? And I've seen so many gay and trans
People misrepresenting God drove me away from seeking Christianity. I hate to be the one to say it, but there's only the representation of God made by humans. There is no other representation of God. If you think you have your own thing about God, your own personal relationship, well, guess what? That's you representing God as a human. Vladimir, of course, somehow believing in God makes you a better person.
people hold this resentment because some of them have been abused by the church, abused by religious people in their family. A lot of them, you know, as children and as adults are told that they cannot be gay and, you know, have a relationship with Jesus, for which I have to really emphasize that and say, that's the thing that has really drawn me to Christianity.
Yeah, the biggest anti-LGBT advocate will now preach about how you can be LGBT and religious.
Is that it really truly is about a personal relationship with God. And I never understood that.
Yeah, it's basically just about your own imagination. Okay, God is whatever you make God up to be. Brilliant.
I saw it as this legalistic, here's all the list of rules you have to follow for God. And don't get me wrong, there are rules. However,
oh, so it
Jesus
is
over and
so it is legalistic then. There are those rules that you have to follow for God.
overemphasize the relationship aspect between every person and God. And he never excluded anybody. In fact, there are so many wonderful passages where he makes it very clear, such as Galatians 3:28, which states that there is neither male nor female, for you all are one in Jesus Christ. Now,
Oh, so I guess it's all good unless you're a non-binary.
does that mean, you know, we're all non-binary? Obviously not. The lens at which you look
What do you mean, obviously not? Wait, hold on. What do you mean, obviously not? Why is it so obvious? I want a justification for this statement that it's so obvious that we're not all non-binary. Also, the first human Adam was made non-binary. At least in the original Hebrew, it says that Adam was both man and woman.
look through the Bible, I know it varies. Like I said, 50,000, you know, denominations of Christianity who can't seem to agree on small and big things. So the way I interpret that is the entire story of Jesus is about transcending flesh. That's just my own personal opinion. And again, I'm not here to prove to you God is okay with me being trans. It's not the point of this video. No one is deprived of a relationship with Jesus. If you can be a politician autographing bombs that get sent off to the Middle East to kill children, if you can be a serial killer on death row and find God, for which there are many pastors who work with people on death row and try to save their souls. If God is available to all those people, I know for a fact God is available to me. And how do I know that? Because I met God, because I had that personal transformational experience, that supernatural experience.
On acid.
Like I said. And it's just been so positive in my life, and I can't imagine my life. I just can't imagine.
Yeah, Blaire White is such a positive person in general.
Before anymore. Sometimes I almost forget, like, how did I even get through it all? So I threw it out to you guys on my Instagram to ask me any questions you wanted me to address in this video, and
Brilliant
any sort of
video.
like statements you wanted to make, whatever the case may be. Has it been difficult to find a church to be a part of / call home? I wouldn't say difficult. I would just say that I have not felt called to go to church. And a lot of people feel like being a Christian is synonymous with going to church, and that the only way to be a Christian is going to church every Sunday. And that is not biblical. You know, the Bible and Jesus talks about how the church isn't here, right? The church is in the
Yeah. Jesus also says those who are without sin cast the first stone, and yet you cast stone on non-binary people and trans people. You judge them for their appearance. You judge them for everything. Okay, so not very Christian of you.
The body of people who believe in Jesus and are aligned with Jesus. That's actually emphasized over and over and over again. And Jesus was very anti-establishment, anti-power structure when it came to the church. And so it's not about the establishment. It's not about a hierarchy of people to judge you or people you have to go through to get to God. You have a one-way connection, a one-way line to Jesus if you so seek it. I feel very comfortable saying that I'm a Christian, I'm not a churchgoer. And that's also not to say that
Wow, so brave.
I'm against it. It's also not to say that I am not open to that. There is a church that was recommended to me recently here in Austin that I'm considering going to just to try it out.
Oh my God, Austin, Texas.
But I just want to say it's not a prerequisite to salvation or believing in God or believing in, Jesus or any of that. It's actually the opposite is said in the Bible. So how do you reconcile being trans with religion? Some people think God messed up. So that would be the whole God doesn't make mistakes. You know what I mean? You can't be born in the wrong body sort of thing that people talk about when they try to debunk this trans Christian supposed split. And for me, I never adhered to any sort of ideology that said I was born in the wrong body or God made a mistake. Even before I was a self-identified Christian and found God, I never used that language. I never believed that. I never believed there was a mistake with my birth. I believed that my path was my path. And I believe that my path has been solidified throughout this entire journey until now through God, in the sense of I've had people, whether it's on tour or whether I'm meeting someone in the mall or whether I'm encountering somebody in the street who has benefited from my, my work on YouTube and my work in the public eye. I've had people break down crying and thanking me that I helped them find God even before I was a Christian. People, detransitioners, people who are trans, people who have
detransitioners
felt helped by my, videos, people who have said, you've stopped me from, deleting myself or ending my life.
Somehow Blaire White's path is her path, but nobody else is allowed to have their path because their path is degenerate and evil and bad and illegitimate.
Know that, just complete self-awareness here, I would not have the platform to have reached those people if I were not trans. I'm very aware that a part of my public profile, the reason I rose to having a public image, reaching people, millions of people all over the world for a decade now.
Oh my God,
trans
that
is
is
an
depressing.
integral part of that. And so, in my opinion, and what I feel through my relationship with God, like I said, that is all part of God's plan for me.
That is very depressing.
I never thought that I'm correcting God's plan or I was, correcting a mistake that was made. These are the sorts of things that trans activists put on all trans people, just like how they...
No, they don't. No, they don't. Yeah, as always, Blaire White is fighting ghosts of her own making, which, considering this whole story, makes a whole lot of sense.
Put on that Christianity is somehow adverse or an enemy. I recognize how easy it is to conflate God with people and the way that they represent him, but that's not fair in my opinion. And this is a perfect example. I've been
just like, and it's so fair to just paint all activists, quote unquote, with a broad brush. That's fair. That's totally fair.
Interested in returning to religion, but feel conflicted due to anti-gay religious right. So again, this is the point that I really want to stress. You've been interested in returning to religion, so you felt that calling like I did, but what's keeping you away from that is people. Really unpack that and really ask yourself, how much does that make sense? That I've been feeling called to God and religion, but people have dissuaded me. That's how you know that those are not the same things. People can, push you away from anything. But the beauty of that is it's not about them. So that's just what I had to realize and kind of mature. I'm not saying you're immature, but I had to really get there intellectually, actually.
You didn't get there intellectually. You say that it's not about what people tell you, but what about your own personal thing. But somehow you do not extend that to being trans. Interestingly enough, you do not allow people to, for their trans experience to be about them. ever. Your whole channel is about not allowing that to be the case.
Actually, it doesn't matter what a single person I've ever heard talk about Christianity or how they represented it or how they behaved with it. Not a single one of those examples matters. What matters is, does this do something for me? Am I called to this? Is God real or is he not? Do you ever consider detransitioning so you can be as God intended you to be? So that's an excellent question.
No,
and
it's not.
I'm glad you made it because I would have maybe forgot to talk about that. There are people, obviously, when you look at like people who are ex-gay Christians, who the way that they feel compelled to go forward when they find God or meet God is they're living a lifestyle like they're not gay anymore. They used to be gay and they're not. They're refraining from being gay. I've seen a couple of detransitioners
Ridiculous.
who found God and that helped them in that, and then they, detransitioned and all of that. And so all of that is valid if that's how you feel, called or what you're supposed to do, or that's your life, right? But this is mine. And I have not felt any calling or compulsion to detransition or radically change how I look or any
So
of that.
convenient.
Because I realized that, again, to me, the story of Jesus is that he transcended flesh. And what is all of this if not just how I've altered my flesh? It's just external, it's superficial. And if it's about being a man as God intended, y'all know I am the last person to ever deny that that is the way I was born, that I am still male, that I am still, by definition, a man. I don't care. You know what I mean? I've never argued against that. You don't have to feel just because you are someone who has transitioned that you
Wait.
have truly become an opposite sex.
So, Blaire White identifies as a man? Okay. Sure. I guess Blaire White identifies as a man then.
This is a false premise made by trans activists again. So I never felt any of those kinds of ways.
Blaire White is such an idiot, I swear to God. I don't even want to begin to unpack that. Blaire White is one of the stupidest people I've ever seen. Vladimir says, so what about Christianity out there on the other side of Atlantic? Are they all protecting the Epstein files now, or is it different when Americans are doing it? Now they're all protecting the Epstein files. The brave American Christians.
And if there are Christians out there who feel like me being Christian is fake or somehow, I am not truly saved by God because I am not feeling compelled to detransition, that is absolutely your right to feel that way. Just like it's my right to feel like if I feel ever pulled to that because that's what God tells me to do and I feel that in my heart and soul, I have no problem obeying. I have no problem doing that. But until I feel that, it is what it is. Scripture says it's a sin for a man to wear
How convenient. How convenient.
women's clothing. Absolutely. So if we want to clock, all of our founding fathers who sat up in wigs and powder and high heels, who, wrote the Constitution, let me know when we do that. Or let me know if that's just aimed at someone like me. Because I'm pretty sure a few lines over, it also says no mixed fabrics, and y'all aren't adhering to that. So again, it's all about people and how they feel. And if I'm wrong or you're wrong, that's okay. And if you want to check.
Oh, so basically you can just do whatever you want. You can just declare yourself a Christian and just do whatever you want because it's all about people and it's all about what you decide to do. Okay, sure.
All the women in the world right now, I'm sure thousands of which are watching this video wearing jeans, which 2 seconds ago was considered, cross-dressing, right?
2 seconds
I don't think
ago.
God is too concerned with the fashion trends of the time. Because again, if he transcended flesh, he definitely transcended fabric. It comes down to people and how they interpret things, and that's fine. And
Vladimir says, okay, Lucy, I guess it's okay to be trans and Christian if you're Blaire White, True.
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I mean, Blaire White just said that they identify as a man. So I don't even know.
You're wrong. Y'all are wrong. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
Women wear jeans. You know what I mean? Like 2 seconds ago, that was a whole scandal when women started wearing jeans.
2 seconds ago?
And just like 2 seconds before that, if you were a man, the manliest men of status and power wore curled wigs and powder on their face and high heels. I think God is much more concerned with my heart. In fact, there is so much more scripture to back that up.
Oh, your heart is... I would not go there if I were you, okay? Because if God only judges you by your heart, then oh my gosh, you're screwed.
Looking at technicalities about current fashion trends and what
You're screwed,
current,
lady.
times dictate as male or female clothing. And by the way, to make one thing abundantly clear, like I did not want to forget this. One of the things I am not saying in this video, similar to how I'm not trying to preach, I am also not trying to say that like these modern super pro LGBT churches that have like drag queen story hour for kids or drag performers with kids, I absolutely do not support those churches and what they're doing. And again, I already stated
okay,
that.
of course. Of course. When a man dresses as a woman, listen, God doesn't care about fashion trends. God doesn't care about who wears what. But if a man wears women's clothing in front of children, that's degenerate and I don't support it. But you know what? God doesn't care about that. But I super do. And also God just judges me by my heart. Okay. Sure. Sure thing, Blaire White.
I feel uncomfortable with churches in general. I go straight to God. I definitely know that inappropriate performances around kids or introducing kids to sexual concepts is wrong. And
A man wearing women's clothing is inherently a sexual concept. Somehow, for some reason. I'm not gonna explain why, but that's just the case. And I don't support it.
believe that before I found God. So that is not what I'm saying when I'm like trans and gay people should feel free and comfortable to explore religion. I'm saying exactly that. I think that
Yeah, you're free to explore anything you want. Unless it's what I consider degenerate, then you cannot.
everybody, and this is biblical, should feel comfortable and open. And
What the fuck does that mean? It's biblical. It's biblical to also not mix fabrics. We have established, and you don't care about that. You don't care about what's biblical. Don't give me that bullshit of it's biblical, okay? Because you just nitpick. You just pick and choose which biblical things you take on board and which you do not. So, this is in your mouth. It's biblical. It's a completely empty argument.
and welcome to finding God. Right? And
No.
if you don't feel open and comfortable in a church, neither do I. But maybe no one told you don't need that. And maybe some people feel like they do need that because they need it explained to them. And I did feel that way also at the beginning of my journey with Christ because I felt like the Bible is so complicated, it's so old.
Oh my God, the Bible is so complicated. Ooh. Self-report. What a self-report if I've ever heard one. The Bible is just so complicated. I'm just so dumb. Kub says, so men in women's clothing are wrong. But also Blaire is considers themselves a man. So yeah, it's almost like there's a contradiction here. Maybe Blaire should stay away from kids.
There's so many different denominations saying that it says this and it says this. There's been so many translations. There's been books taken out. I'm a really big believer in, this is just my personal thing, I'm a big believer in when I went to learn about the Bible, I prayed to God for the discernment to figure it out through that and through the relationship with God. And I still don't have it figured out, but just to have the eyes to see and to read and to truly understand where the truth lies, what's been altered in the Bible, because unfortunately, you know what I mean? A lot of Christians
I mean, I don't know. Learn Hebrew. What am I supposed to tell you? Go learn biblical Hebrew.
Online lately are coming to understand things like the Schofield Bible, and there's no denying the Bible has been messed with, because of course the devil's going to mess with the Bible, but there are core tenets.
The devil's gonna mess with the Bible. Okay, I guess some translators are just devils.
are core stories. There are plot holes that actually do neatly get filled in when you're willing to look at some of the banned books of the
Plot holes?
Bible that once were canonical and maybe are not now, right? So it's very complicated and I get that. But the
Plot holes?
beauty of God, in my opinion, is he's like all things at once. So even though he's so complicated, he's also so simple. And when you really like go in with the intention of like, I am empowered enough to understand this on my own. I am empowered enough to go through God to figure all this out. He really does provide that to you. And that's been my personal experience. Again, not that I'm some final boss biblical expert.
Final. What the fuck? This is so stupid. I'm the final boss biblical expert.
I'm not about to be accepting
Final boss isn't why you're supposed to be defeated?
any invitations after this for debates from Christian channels who I'm sure have a million little things they want to nitpick. Just like a denomination they agree with is going to nitpick what they say. If you know, you know. If you know what I'm talking about, you get it. If you don't, that's okay. So I hope you guys
This is the perfect video for Blaire White when she does not have to justify, explain, or really elaborate anything. Because all she has to do is say, if you know, you know. And if you don't, you don't. But if you know, then you know. You know?
understand and see that I clearly came at this being as humble as I possibly can. I'm going to be reading all the comments on this one for sure. So let me know all of you guys' thoughts. Thank you
So humble.
so much to Merge Cooking for sponsoring this video. Make sure you guys
Who cares about... There's no more humble attitude than saying, who cares about what people say? All that matters is what I imagine to be true. So humble.
go download the game, check them out. Link in the description or QR code
The
somewhere on the
humblest.
screen. I'm not trying to sell you on Jesus, but I
The humblest little munchkin.
am trying to sell you on them. So go check them out. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel as well as my podcast channel. Follow me on X, Instagram, TikTok, all of the things, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys. God bless.
Ah.